All right, today we're tackling one of the biggest stories in world history.
I mean, it's a monumental journey, really.
We're looking at how a faith that started small, with just a handful of followers in the Arabian desert, exploded into a global civilization.
It shaped not one, but three continents.
Exactly. So our mission here is to trace that entire path for you.
We're going right from the very beginning, the first revelations, all the way through this massive expansion and, the incredible science of its golden age.
It's a story where you really see that ideas and trade can be just as powerful as armies, maybe even more so.
Absolutely.
So let's set the stage. Our starting point is the 7th century in a city called Mecca.
And you have to understand, Mecca was already a deal.
It wasn't just some quiet town in the desert.
Not at all. It was a major hub for two really important reasons. First, it was a center for long-distance trade. All sorts of goods and people were passing through.
And
It
second.
was a major religious site, but for the old pagan traditions.
Okay. Right. So that's the world the founder of the faith, Muhammad, was born into. He was merchant, right?
He was, and he had this reputation for being incredibly honest and trustworthy, which, in a city built on trade, that means a lot.
So what was the turning point?
The big shift happens when he's about 40 years old. According to Islamic tradition, he starts receiving messages from God, delivered by the angel Gabriel.
And these messages become the foundation for the new faith.
Exactly. And the core message itself was revolutionary for that time and place.
How so?
Well, first, it was a powerful statement of monotheism. There's only one God. That directly challenged all the polytheistic beliefs that were common in Mecca.
And that was a problem for the city's leaders.
A huge economic problem. But there was another piece to it, a really strong call for social justice, for taking care of the poor and promoting equality.
So you've got this dual message, religious and economic, that created instant conflict.
Instant conflict is the right way to put it. The wealthy elite in Mecca saw this new faith as a direct threat to their power and their income. So they started persecuting Muhammad and his followers.
Which leads to a really key moment in this story.
A defining moment.
Yeah.
To escape the danger, in the year 622, Muhammad and his followers leave Mecca and travel to the city of Medina. That journey is called the Hijra.
And the Hijra isn't just about escaping danger, is it? It's much bigger than that.
It's so much bigger. That journey is the moment the faith goes from being a persecuted group to a self-governing community. It's so important that it actually marks the start of the Islamic calendar.
So in Medina, he's not just a religious figure anymore.
No, he's welcomed as a leader, a political mediator who can settle the disputes between the local tribes that had been fighting for years.
And he builds a new kind of community there.
He does. It was based on shared faith, not just old family or tribal loyalties. He set the rules, he acted as a judge, and he was the military leader. It was a whole new social structure.
And it worked. The community grew fast.
It grew very fast, so fast that by the year 630, they were strong enough to return to Mecca, and this time with a huge army.
And Mecca just gave up.
Pretty much. The leaders saw they were completely outnumbered and surrendered without a major fight.
This is where you see some incredible strategy from Muhammad. No revenge.
No, he showed incredible mercy. He pardoned most of his former enemies. Then he went straight to the Kaaba, that famous cube-shaped building, cleared out all the statues of the old gods, and dedicated it to the one God.
And that was it, the symbolic unification.
That was the moment. It cemented Mecca as the sacred center of the faith. And by the time Muhammad died in 632, most of the Arabian Peninsula was unified under this new community.
But his death created a huge question.
The ultimate question. Who leads now?
And this is where things get really complicated politically. He hadn't named a successor.
Right, so the community had to figure it out. They chose his close friend, Abu Bakr, and gave him the title Caliph.
Let's break down what caliph means, because it's not the same as a prophet.
No, not at all. A caliph is a successor, or deputy. It's a role that is both the political leader of the empire and the religious head of the community. It's two huge jobs in one.
And the first four, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali, are known as the rightly guided caliphs.
Correct. They were the ones who really organized the growing empire, set up tax systems, all the foundational stuff.
But the disagreements over who should have that job, that power, caused a major split. Can you simplify the core issue for us?
I can try. It all comes down to how you choose the next leader. One group believed the caliph should be chosen by the community leaders based on who was most qualified. That's how the first few were chosen.
Okay, leadership by consensus.
Sort of, yeah. The other group believed leadership should only pass down through Muhammad's family line, specifically to his son-in-law Ali.
So election versus lineage.
That's the heart of it. And that fundamental disagreement is the historical origin of the major division within the Islamic world we still see today.
Okay, that context is crucial because while all this internal political stuff is happening, the armies are just expanding at an incredible rate.
Unbelievably fast.
Why were they so successful? How did they conquer so much territory so quickly?
Well, there are two main reasons. First, their military strategy was brilliant. They used fast-moving cavalry that could strike and retreat before bigger, slower armies could even react.
And the second reason?
Timing. You honestly could not have picked a better moment in history to expand.
Why is that?
Because the two superpowers bordering Arabia, the Byzantine Empire to the west, and the Sassanid, the Persian Empire to the east, were completely exhausted.
And fighting each other.
For decades. They had fought each other to a complete standstill. They were drained of soldiers, money, and resources. They were wide open.
So by 640, Muslim forces had taken huge chunks of Byzantine land, Egypt, Syria, Palestine, even Jerusalem.
Right. But here's the interesting part. A lot of the local people in those areas almost welcomed the change.
Why would you welcome a conqueror?
Because the Byzantine rulers were known for levying really, really heavy taxes. Many locals were just exhausted by the financial burden and the oppression. The new rulers seemed like the lesser of two evils.
And that brings us to the idea of religious tolerance. The new rulers didn't force everyone to convert, did they?
No, they had a specific policy for Christians and Jews, who they called the people of the book.
What did that mean in their daily lives?
It meant that because they also followed a written scripture from the Abrahamic tradition, they were allowed to keep their own religions, they could keep their churches and synagogues, and follow their own laws.
But there was a condition.
There was. They had to pay a special tax to the government. It was a very practical system. It brought in revenue and kept the very diverse empire stable.
So while that's happening in the West, the entire Persian Empire to the east just collapses. By 651, it's gone.
And that was a huge achievement. The Sassanids were an ancient, powerful civilization.
What was the impact of that?
Well, the conquerors were smart. They saw that the Persians had really sophisticated systems for running a government and collecting taxes. So instead of reinventing the wheel, they just adopted a lot of Persian methods.
So they learned from the people they conquered.
Absolutely. And over time, as many Persians converted, they became some of the most important scholars, scientists, and administrators in the entire empire.
This is the transition to the era of the Mega Empire. After those first four caliphs, the Umayyad family takes control.
And this is a big shift. They move the capital from Medina to Damascus in Syria. It signals a move away from that early community model toward a more centralized, dynastic, hereditary rule.
And under the Umayyads, the empire reaches its absolute largest size.
It's staggering to think about. A single political entity that stretched from Spain and the Atlantic Ocean all the way across North Africa, through the Middle East, to the Indus River in modern-day Pakistan.
How do you even govern something that huge and diverse?
You need standardization, and they're very good at it. First, they made Arabic the official language of the government everywhere. That meant all administrators could communicate.
Okay, one language. What else?
One type of coin. They minted a single currency used across the empire, which made trade and taxes way simpler. And third, they built huge public monuments, like the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, as symbols of their power.
What was life like for the average person living in this empire? You've got Berbers, Persians, former Byzantines.
It was a true melting pot. Society was generally structured into four classes. You had Arab Muslims at the top, then non-Arab converts.
And then the protected groups.
Exactly. The people of the book, Christians and Jews, who followed their own laws.
Yeah.
And then slaves at the bottom. But the key thing for stability was that the protected groups were mostly left alone as long as they paid their taxes and stayed loyal.
And all that stability allows for some amazing economic and technological growth, especially in farming.
That's right. We're not talking about just waiting for rain. Farmers used very advanced irrigation systems.
What does that mean exactly? Like sprinklers?
Think bigger, like complex water wheels and long-distance channels that could basically make the desert farmable.
Yeah.
This let them grow high-value cash crops the world wanted: sugar, cotton, citrus fruits.
And that agricultural wealth really funded what came next.
It did. It fueled the incredible intellectual boom of the Golden Age.
Which happened under the next dynasty, the Abbasids, who moved the capital to a new city, Baghdad.
Yes, and Baghdad became the intellectual center of the world. This is where the civilization goes from being just a military power to something else entirely.
The Abbasids built the famous House of Wisdom. What was that exactly?
You shouldn't think of it as just a library. It was more like a state-funded mega university, a translation center, and a research institute all rolled into one. Scholars from all over the known world came there.
And their main job was translation.
Translation was the first step. They started this huge project to find and translate every important piece of ancient knowledge they could, Greek philosophy, Indian mathematics, Persian astronomy, all into Arabic.
They were basically saving ancient knowledge from being lost.
They saved huge amounts of it. But they didn't just save it, they built on it. And that led to massive breakthroughs that we still use every single day.
Okay, give us the biggest example.
Mathematics. Without a doubt, Muslim scholars developed the entire concept of algebra. The word itself comes from the Arabic al-jab.
Wow.
And they popularized the number system we use today, Arabic numerals. The key innovation there was the number 0.
Why was 0 so important?
Because you can't do complex calculations without it. It's essential for advanced engineering, for astronomy, for accurate accounting. Imagine trying to run a global trade empire with Roman numerals. It's a nightmare.
It's a great point. It would be impossible.
Our medicine was just as advanced. They wrote these detailed medical textbooks based on actual observation and experiments. They were so good that European universities were still using them as textbooks hundreds of years later.
Incredible. Now, the empire didn't just stay in the Middle East. In 711, it expands into Europe.
That's right. Forces crossed from North Africa into Spain, establishing a culture we call Al-Andalus.
And cities like Cordoba became, the most advanced in Europe.
By far. At a time when most of Europe was in the Dark Ages, Cordoba had paved streets, streetlights, and huge public libraries. It was a place where Muslims, Jews, and Christians often lived and worked together, creating this unique cultural blend.
And while that's happening, the civilization is also pushing east into India. But you said earlier that trade was just as important as armies.
In many ways, trade was the most effective tool for spreading the culture and the faith peacefully.
How did that work?
Well, think of the trans-Saharan trade routes. Merchants crossing the desert, trading salt for gold. They brought their culture and their religion with them, and you see entire West African kingdoms convert over time.
It wasn't just by land either.
No, the sea routes were just as important. Traders sailing to Southeast Asia, to places like Malaysia and Indonesia. These merchants were often respected figures, and their success and behavior introduced the faith to new places.
And the result of that is just staggering.
It really is. Look at the world today. The country with the largest Muslim population isn't in the Middle East. It's Indonesia.
A nation built on those ancient sea trade routes.
Exactly. It shows you how powerfully ideas traveled alongside silken spices.
So when we look back, the lasting impact is undeniable.
For centuries, they created this huge safe zone for travel and trade, linking East and West under a common language and law.
And all that knowledge they saved in the House of Wisdom.
It didn't stay in Baghdad. When Europeans rediscovered those Arabic texts later on, it helped spark the intellectual boom that we call the Renaissance.
And it's even in our language today, words we use every day.
Oh, absolutely. Words like cotton, sugar, magazine.
Algebra, algorithm,
The
zero.
list goes on and on. It's all rooted in Arabic from that period.
You know, what this history really shows is that things like faith and trade networks and the pursuit of knowledge, they can be the strongest foundations for a civilization.
Absolutely. Much stronger and more lasting than just military force. The idea that a library in Baghdad could change the world more than 1,000 battles is a powerful one.
A very powerful one. Keep exploring how knowledge and trade connect cultures across the map. Good luck with your studies.